Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me. We have quite a bit to talk about, so let's get right to it. So, we're currently looking at the latest information about unrest from Campi Flegrei. We're currently looking at the weekly update right now. And in the last week, there was a pretty significant uptick of uplift right here, which culminated with a spike in earthquake activity that's been occurring over the last week and a half. And the uptick in earthquakes has continued to the present with a very shallow earthquake swarm that's occurred at the volcano yesterday. Why are these earthquakes so shallow? Let's see. How do I know they're so shallow? Because these two seismic stations are very close to one another. This one is a little bit further northeast, maybe like by a kilometer, and yet barely anything showing up. However, these quakes also showed up here. There were more than three. But clearly you can see there were three very shallow earthquakes. All were basically 0.3, 0.2, 0.2. And then you had a 1.5 that occurred right here at 2.89 kilometers in depth. And then you had another earthquake at 0.3 that occurred at 0.3 kilometers depth. Also somewhere in the bay here, actually further away. I was surprised by that. Is Campi Flegrei due for an eruption? For the most part, yes. Campi Flegrei also has a lot of eruptible magma. Over 70% of its magma is eruptible. Also, Campi Flegrei is part of a caldera. Campi Flegrei, it's not just a caldera, it's a series of it's a caldera and also monogenic volcanic craters, volcanic fields, basically. Campi Flegrei is what I would call a complex volcanic field. Volcanic field with an embedded caldera. That's what Campi Flegrei basically is. Campi Flegrei will probably not have a super eruption anytime soon, not within our lifetimes and not within, I believe, any time in the next 10,000 years, but there is a chance of a powerful eruption nevertheless, especially with all this uplift that's been going on. So let's look at earthquake activity from Campi Flegrei. So this is looking through the month of December. So right here you can see that there's been an uptick of earthquake activity from March through May, and then followed by a decrease from June through July. And believe it or not, there were very few earthquakes through the beginning part of August, followed by a significant uptick. So let's look at the data, see what the data tells us. Right here, at the beginning of July, very few earthquakes, 8, 16, 21st, 23rd, 25th. And then, earthquakes, you could count them. There were not that many. The first only had like less than 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. The second only had a few, like right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the third, the fourth. But the fourth and the fifth, look at that. Started to see an uptick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. So 32 earthquakes. And then the fifth, again, not too much. 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. It all changed on the 18th. The 18th is when it all changed. Look at that, 18th. Look at that. All those earthquakes on the 18th. Right? And the 19th, and the 20th, the 21st, the 22nd. Most of your earthquakes in Italy occurred on the 18th. That's also when you had a 3.6. You had a very powerful seismic swarm. And then September rolled around. The beginning of September, nothing too bad. The 3rd, the 5th, there were even some days where you kind of went, and there was only one earthquake on the 6th. And then the 7th, and then the 9th, the 10th. And look at that, 2.9. And a lot of earthquakes on the 13th, the 15th, the 17th, 19th, 20th. Look at the 20th and the 21st. A lot of earthquakes. and it just got worse. Look at the 23rd, all those earthquakes. And October had a lot fewer earthquakes, but the big day when that 4.2 happened was on the 27th, early in the morning. And then boom, 4.0, October 2nd. And then a 3.6 on the 16th. So the earthquakes were still continuing, and then they finally began to decrease into the month of November. Still, you had a 1.4, a 3.1, but overall it just started decreasing. And when did that 4.2 occur? On the 27th at 1:35 a.m. So let's go all the way down again, right? 27. Right here. Go to me, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, and then oh. Yeah, 5. So for the fifth earthquake, boom, 4.2 at 2.83 kilometers in depth. And then you can almost say these are aftershocks, I guess. You can almost say that some of these are aftershocks. Okay, 2.1, 2.8. That day was definitely scary because look at that. In a single hour, look at all these earthquakes. You had almost every minute you had an earthquake. The 25th, 27th, 29th, 30, 31, 45, 50, 59. So almost every minute there was and look at that, in the same minute, within 25 milliseconds, there was an earthquake, 0.4, 2.2, 11 minutes, 24, within two, look at that, not even a minute later, maybe 30, so about 41 seconds later, you had another earthquake, 0.4, 0.4, and not in the same area either, so very close, but, and then these earthquakes just continue. But now things are much quieter, but things are starting to get more unstable again, as there's once again starting to be more uplift, especially seen right here. There's going to be a new update because it's updated every Tuesday, and I'll make another video later this evening. I'm going to be going live. Thank you for watching and have a great day. Thank you for watching and have a great day.